All right, everybody. Well, we certainly appreciate you being here. I'll get started. A couple of housekeeping items as I introduce our wonderful panelists. So I'm Nick Pringer, founder and CEO of AskGenius and Pringer Solutions Group, joined by the real talent at our firm, Ashley Winans, who's in charge of all our consulting services, Sarah Ligo, who's our direct mail expert, works with a lot of our clients. We're going to talk about strategies to boost year-end giving. The housekeeping I mentioned, yes, this is being recorded. As always, we will email you right after the webinar. I say right after the webinar, and there's a guy named Mitch on the screen here behind the logo who's cringing and saying, well, maybe not right after the webinar, but at some point later today, we will email you a recording of this. We'll also give you a link so you can download the slides. So rest assured, you don't need to take furious notes. We will send all of this to you. Also, as we go, please, as you have questions, hit that Q&A button on your screen. So sometimes people put questions in the chat, and sometimes we catch them, but a lot of times we don't because we'll all be chatting. If you hit the Q&A button, it actually pops up on my screen and Sarah's and Ashley's screen, so we can mark down and make sure we get to it. So that's it for housekeeping. Let's jump right in. Background on who we are, why we're talking about this. We all work for a firm called Pringer Solutions Group. There's about 15 of us, and we have a deep experience running fundraising campaigns for all sorts of organizations all over the country. What PSG does is we run high-end fundraising appeals, annual appeals for a lot of clients within a specific niche. We work with Catholic dioceses. So we're raising, well, Sarah and Ashley are helping raise, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million a year for a whole bunch of different clients across the country. We also do a little bit of Razor's Edge outsourcing. So if people have problems they need to solve in Razor's Edge, a lot of times we will jump in and help with that. And we have some automation stuff, and there's more on that coming up probably early next year. We'll talk about fundraising automation. We also, if you're wondering what AskGenius is and why you keep getting emails from AskGenius, that is a product that we built to solve a really painful problem that we had when we were running these annual appeals. We'll give you a chance if you want to know more about AskGenius. We're always, of course, happy to talk about it. But just to kind of explain what AskGenius is and how it relates to Pringer Solutions Group. Pringer Solutions Group is our company. It's a consulting firm. AskGenius is a product that we happen to kind of stumble into and create, and it turns out it's pretty darn useful to help people raise more money. Okay, previous topics that we've tackled, just to let you know, because there's a way that you can go and view all these. We always get questions about, hey, you mentioned something about a pledge card template. Where can I find that? So here's all the stuff that we have done over the last, actually, I'm going to say 6 months or so that we've been building in public here. Yep. It went by in a blink. I don't know if you noticed, but it's almost November now, which means it's basically Christmas and the year is over for all of us. So here are all the topics that we've covered so far. So if this is your first webinar, it is not our first webinar. We have gone through donor personas, how to use emails in fundraising. We've talked about using social media in fundraising. We've talked a ton about direct mail. Everything that we've learned as we've run really high performing, fundraising appeals these last 4 years, we've built in public, and we've packaged it up and we serve it up in a webinar in a way that is useful. If there's ever anything that we can provide, like a template, like template fundraising letters, template pledge cards, we do so. So all of those are out there. And if you do find these helpful, you can go ahead and sign up on our website. Go to askgenius.com. There's a newsletter sign up. And I bet my friend Mitch can drop this into the chat. It's not too terribly often that we send it out. Every time we have something good to share. So maybe once a month or so, we'll give you a preview. Here's the upcoming webinars. It'll give you a chance to weigh in if there's something you'd like us to cover. And we'll just kind of keep you in the loop on any fun research that we're doing. So you can sign up for the fundraising newsletter. Again, goes up maybe once a month or so. So we'd love to have you there. And with that, let's jump right into the topic at hand. So it is now, as I look at my laptop, October 18th. So basically, the year is over. Anything that you were going to accomplish this year is behind you. It's time for a mad dash and a scramble to put together a year-end giving plan. So we're going to walk through 9 strategies, look at these as tips, helpful hints, things that you can grab 1 or 2 of these and say, hey, that's really cool. I think we can implement that at our organization. And as you have questions, of course, hit that Q&A button. So we will start at the beginning. Strategy number 1, promote QCDs, qualified charitable deductions. Okay, now is the time to be talking about qualified charitable deductions. These used to be called IRA. I think they're called IRA rollovers. They changed the language 2 or 3 years ago. Ashley, first pop quiz for you. How old is a typical donor? Of the folks that I see on the line here today, they're all thinking of their donors. How old is their average donor?
68.
That's right. How old was their average donor 10 years ago?
68.
Yes. How old will their average donor be in 30 years?
68.
That is right. Your average donor will always be 68 years old. There is no change in it. And we can, I think we have done webinars on young donors and attracting, new families. And that's absolutely a priority. But put in perspective, your donors are old. That's just the way it is. That is when we are in our prime giving years, is when we are older. So keep that in mind. And when it comes to IRA, sorry, I'm using the old language. When it comes to QCDs, qualified charitable distributions, there's 2 dates to keep in mind, okay? And people get confused on this, so I want to make sure I walk through it. The first is age 70 and a half. That is the age at which donors can donate directly from their IRA, from a qualified charitable retirement account or qualified retirement account. They can make a donation straight from that IRA to a qualified nonprofit without paying tax on it, right? Without taking it as income. Okay, so at 70 and a half, my grandparents can start, or my parents who are approaching this, can start donating instead of out of their checkbook. They can start donating out of retirement accounts and pay no penalties, and it's a really good deal for everybody. At age 72, those donors are required to start taking distributions. Okay, and these two used to be the same thing. It all used to be the same age. The Secure Act changed it and moved back the dates at which they have to take required distributions. All that you need to know is they can start making these donations from retirement plans at 70 and a half. And at age 72, they are required by the federal government to take distributions from the retirement accounts. Many people do not need those retirement funds, right? Which is a great place for all of us to be in, that you arrive at a point when you're in your early 70s, you say, you know what, I don't really need to dip into this yet, but you're required to. And when you take that distribution, you have to pay tax on it. So it becomes very attractive for donors, instead of taking the distribution, to just repurpose that and send that to a nonprofit, like one of your fine nonprofits I see here on the line here today. Ashley, what did I miss? Anything else about how to promote this or what we should do?
I mean, basically, a lot of people can get overwhelmed with the idea of, this kind of plan giving and things like that. But you don't have to be a plan giving officer. It's, let their financial advisor do the work, but putting that idea out there that they can donate directly to you is a good start. So if you have, if you're lucky enough to have the ages in your database system, you can target those that are 70 and a half and up, specifically with a letter, or you could even, pile it all into a ways to give email and have that be one of the options. And you can send it to all your donors.
Yep, love it. On our consulting side, we work with a lot of Catholic parishes. This is a simple parish postcard that a lot of folks use, and they also use it as an insert. Sometimes they'll put it in the pews. The thing I like about it, what I want to highlight here, is just what Ashley said. It doesn't try to do too much, right? We can wrap ourselves in knots trying to explain charitable giving tax laws. You don't need to. All your donor needs to know is that, yes, you can support us, and there's a way that you can even support us in a way that saves you on taxes, right? And that's the right order. There's been research after research project that shows people do not give. Number one reason is not for the tax benefit. There are very few people, if any, that sit down and say, boy, I really want to save some taxes. Let's start giving some money away. It's the flip. Other people say, I want to support organizations, and if there's a way I can save taxes, that's even better. Okay. You can tell it's winter because every one of us is pausing to quietly cough here every 2 minutes or so. All right, qualified charitable distributions. Make those donors, your average donors, feel like heroes by saving some money on taxes. They feel smart. Everybody wins. All right. Strategy number 2. We are strongly recommending, as you approach year-end giving, this is a time to focus on your existing donors. Okay. I think I covered this a little bit when we did some direct mail webinar stuff, but I always go back to this quote. There's a wonderful book that everyone in fundraising should read. It's by Eugene Schwartz. It's written, I think, in 1970. It's not about fundraising, it's about copywriting. And what he was saying was, he was talking about selling things. So selling a pair of shoes or a loaf of bread. Said copy cannot create a desire for a product, right? All it can do, all the written word can do, is take a desire that's already there, right? It's in the hearts and minds of the folks you're approaching, and it can focus that attention on your product. That is how you should think about fundraising. That is how we think about fundraising. There is none of you on this call, all of us on the screen included, that can write a letter that is so compelling that it can reliably turn someone who is not a donor into a donor. That doesn't happen. What you can do is write a letter that is so effective at turning somebody who is already inclined to donate and support your organization and have them make a gift. That is what the role is, especially when we get to year-end giving. To put this in stark, math terms here, acquisition, where the person reading your letter is a stranger, typically about 0.5% will respond. It almost always costs you more money to acquire a donor than you're actually getting from the donor. So it might cost you $1.50 for every dollar you raise. If it's already an existing donor, somebody who supports you, typical response rate can be anywhere from 40 to 70%, which is a really big deal. Okay. Sarah, thoughts on this? Acquiring, what's the right frame of mind, for the folks on the line say, well, when should we acquire new donors, or how should we acquire new donors?
Yeah, typically, if the best way to acquire new donors are through people that are already engaging with your organization. So whether that's through events or certain things that are happening that you're hosting, use those opportunities to and gather new potential donor information and add them to the fold. If you don't have those, then recommend maybe doing one acquisition outreach a year, but no more than that. Some organizations do 2, 3, 4, and you're just wasting your money. The ROI is just not there. So if you're going to do one a year, typically in the early time of your appeal year, and then focus on those who already love you. So
yep, and we see a lot of success in that too. I know, looking at year-end giving, I think it's best not to really look at this as a separate appeal, but a lot of times this is a give again appeal. Like this is the folks who have given to your appeal already in the year. They've raised their hand. Maybe they gave you $100 or $1,000. They will donate again towards the end of the year if you invite them and if you've cultivated and stewarded them. So talking about our current existing donors, Sarah, is it ever a good idea to write personal thank you notes?
It's always a good idea. And the reality is your first response is going to be, I don't have time. I don't have staff. You need to make the time, whether that's weekly, tackling 10 donors or whatever it may be. Take the time because the ROI is well beyond what you might get from anything else you do. So
agreed. Grab your top 10, grab your top 15, write a personal note. I didn't mean to advance a slide, but it was giving me epilepsy to see that animation going over and over and over again. So I did take it off the screen there for a minute. Okay. Ask each donor for the perfect amount. Strategy number 3, when it is time to ask. So we talked about how old our donors are. We've talked about don't focus right now at the end of the year on acquiring donors. It's about renewing gifts and reaching your core audience. The best advice we have is ask everybody for the right amount. And here's what I mean by that. We did a huge research project about 2 years ago now, where we got tons and tons of pledge cards from our clients and from the market that we serve. And we did the research and we got their numbers on how do they set ask amounts and how does it work. And really what it boils down to is this: ask amounts on a pledge card. If you're sending a mailing, typically you're going to send a heartfelt letter. You're going to send a pledge card as part of that. We want you to ask for the right amount. If you send everybody a generic amount, and we've tested this out, you're typically sending them a pledge card that starts at $100 and it offers 100, 150, 250, 500. That's great if that's the right amount for that donor, but it doesn't work if that donor can afford $25, and it really doesn't work if that donor can afford a $700 gift. So what we've tested out and what we've built is a way that you can actually ask every donor for the right amount. That's not too low and not too high. If we at Premier Solutions Group, Ashley and Sarah, are running a multi-million-dollar appeal, and there's 10,000 potential prospects, there might be 3,000 different sets of ask strings, because we know from having done this for 4 years now, that is what will raise you the most amount of money. So your ask strings are an area that are ripe for you to optimize to raise more money this year. If you send everybody the one-size-fits-all pledge card, you're going to raise increased gifts now on average about 4%, so a little bit less than inflation right now. On average, when you're customizing those ask strings and asking everybody for the amount that you know is right, based on their giving history and wealth research and their zip code and everything else, we're seeing on average 29% increase in giving. Okay. This is not a donor acquisition strategy. This is a how do I raise as much money as possible from donors, asking them for the right amount that's not too high and not too low. That's actually what AskGenius is. So that's the tool that we built, and we're not here to talk about it other than to let you know it exists. You can connect AskGenius to your donor database, whether it's Razor's Edge or something else. You can then choose a strategy. You can do something nice and easy. You can swing for the fences and be really aggressive. You can do the secret sauce, which is what we use. It's a pretty great tool, and I'll stop there, other than to let everybody say, if you want to know anything more about AskGenius, let us know. We can follow up with you. We won't, belabor the point here, but let us know. So AskGenius is a tool we built because we need to set ask amounts in an efficient way for thousands of donors at a time. If that's something you want to know about, let us know. We'll be happy to follow up with you. It'll be from a nice gentleman named Andrew Menke. I'll give it about 2 seconds more here. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thanks everybody. So strategy, what are we on? Strategy number 3. So we've talked about charitable distributions. We've talked about don't focus on acquiring donors, focus on existing donors. We focus on when you do ask, make sure you're asking for the right amount. Now let's talk about updating signature blocks, something quick and easy. I see this, I actually notice in our clients a lot more than anything that we've been promoting. So I'm thinking of your email signature block from your organization, whether you're Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity, a college, a university, a high school. It strikes me that there's a ripe area for you to do some cross marketing, right? So you could do something like, hey, there's 30 days left to make a gift, and you can make a little note to yourself that every day you update your email signature. You could write something like make a difference and save on your taxes and link to a donation page. What I think would be effective would be a strategy you see all the time outside of fundraising. Get it down to the personal level. Put a little note at the end of your signature block that says 273 people have already donated, this December, and give them a link to donate. Ashley, have we done this before ever for our clients?
Not specifically this. We have done it for like annual reports. We'll put a line that says like, see how you've made a difference, and they can click on it and it takes them directly to the annual report. And that's been successful. So I'd love to see more of the donate information there.
Yeah, awesome. So for the folks on the line, please try it out and then let us know, and we'll share your story with the group. We'll keep building in public here and sharing everything we learned. So I'd love to know if people can get any click-throughs. I would manage my expectations. I don't think you'll see a flood of donations, but I think it's one more prompt, right, to the folks that you're corresponding with, the donors to your organization. Okay, strategy number 4, mid-December PSA email to donors. Sarah, I'm going to ask you about this. This is something that I am passionate about because I've seen it work so well. I'm thinking of your development director. You're getting to the end of the year. You want to ask everybody to give, but you also, maybe don't want to step on an appeal that's already out the door. You want to find like, what's a new way, a nice strategy to ask for a gift. Here's how the PSA approach works. Number 1, you can never go wrong telling donors they're great. We appreciate you. A ton of our funding, I don't know if you know this, like comes in the month of December. I think it's always fun and impactful, and it works to tell donors, like pull back the curtain a bit, show donors, hey, a lot of our funding every year comes in December. This is a public service announcement. Our hours are open. So if you want to make a gift, we're open until December 23rd, or our staff is here every day till 4, or we actually have extra hours to process all the gifts. It's okay to frame it as in you're doing the donor a favor, saying, hey, you're going to be scrambling to cut a check for tax purposes. Here's when our here's when our office hours will be. And then of course, telling them you can donate online right up until the ball drops, right? On midnight, December 31st, have it applied to your taxes. I love this strategy. I love it when it's framed as a personal note from the development director to donors saying, hey, I get these questions all the time. So many people are asking. Here's a quick rundown, right, of how you can make those year-end gifts. It's a wonderful way to have that donor feel that FOMO of like, oh my gosh, lots of people are making year-end gifts. So like, I'm gonna make mine. Sarah, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I completely agree. If you spend December focusing on the numbers still to raise, you're not going to hit that goal, right? Spend December focused on gratitude, focused on kind of that stewardship or cultivation side of things, and remind them of, roundaboutly how they can make their gift without coming out and saying it, right up to them. So build those relationships, because you not only need them to give this year, right? You're trying to also think about next year as well. So if you're doing this now, you're going to continue to cultivate that relationship into the new year too.
Yep. You can get a lot of mileage from that tone of, aw shucks, I have the greatest job in the world. Our donors are amazing. I can't believe how wonderful you all are. Here's some of the information you've been asking for. Like, it just plain works, right? So don't be afraid. You don't have to be overly formal. You don't have to be stuffy. Everything doesn't have to be, a long letter with an ask on it. Little strategies like this, just letting people know, hey, we get these questions all the time. Here's some information for you. it will work for you. So we really like that strategy. Strategy 5, consider a postcard, right? It's the end of the year. Maybe your budget is a little bit tight and you're thinking, maybe I'll just send a postcard this year and invite people to give. I did some research this week and I found this on Pinterest. It was 12 fundraising postcard ideas. And the cool thing is I didn't even have to look at it because I can already tell you what those 12 ideas should be. Number 1 is don't do it, right? Don't send a postcard. Number 2 is also don't send a postcard. Number 3, 4, and through 12 are all, please do not send a fundraising postcard as a standalone piece asking people to give, because it will not work. And I'm passionate about this because we see it all the time, right? There is a role for postcards in a fundraising appeal when it's a multi-channel appeal, or maybe you're promoting year-end giving, like through the QCDs or something really direct, right? It's not. Postcards do not work as a standalone piece, right? And a lot of nonprofits are driven to them because they think, I want to save some money, right? I don't want to send that first-class letter asking people for a gift. Instead, I'm going to do something that costs maybe half as much and is guaranteed to raise me no money whatsoever. And that is a decision that is made at a lot of nonprofits. Not often is it driven by development. It's usually driven by finance or budgetary constraints. But just let me save the money. Do not just send a postcard. So strategy 5 is consider a postcard, and then make sure that you decide, do not send it. So just stop, don't do it. We've done the research, we've tried everything there is, and we can save you the money. Don't do a postcard. Don't do a standalone postcard. Ashley, did I jump on that too much?
No, I think it was right on. I agree, 100%.
we are, if anything, we are driven by data at PSG, and we want you to succeed. So let us save you this and tell you that the data is in and they will not work. And what will work even less is a postcard sold to you by some vendor that says, this is a great acquisition piece, right? That you're going to go from 0% response to somehow you're going to have people, taking money from you. It does not work. You cannot acquire donors through a simple postcard. I don't care how great your graphic designer is. That's not how we're built. It can be multi-channel, but it cannot be a postcard alone. Okay, strategy 6, we're getting to the end here. Follow up on outstanding pledges. So we have a lot of clients, and I see a lot of folks online here that I know are pledge focused, right? So you have donors that make a 10-month pledge to your organization, or maybe you're a faith-based organization or a church, and people are pledging or tithing their offertory giving. Now is the time to start talking about how do we follow up on those outstanding pledges. And we get asked quite a bit, what language should we use? So here, and again, we'll send you these slides, so you don't have to write it all down now, but this is really good language to use. So if you have someone with an outstanding pledge balance, the way to approach it is to send them a note, right? Send them a personal, heartfelt note addressed just to them. Do not send this as a BCC to a bunch of donors. Again, that is a waste of time. You can do a mail merge. I don't know if a lot of people know this. You can do a mail merge in Outlook. There's also a tool that you can do it in Gmail. So if you have a spreadsheet with donors' first names and their email address, and maybe whether or not they have an outstanding balance, you can do a mail merge that sends individual emails out to them. So the language I would use: dear person, right? Call them by their first name. Just want to take a moment and say thank you. You're incredible. You've been a donor. That's awesome. And then we introduce sort of that not that peer pressure, but like that FOMO idea of like, hey, more than 7,000 people. You're not alone. People like you support an organization like this. And then I get to the business and I say, I noticed you had a pledge earlier this year. If you want to fulfill that online, that's great. You can do it all the way up to midnight. If you want to send a check and make sure it gets in before the end of the tax season, you can do so. Here's our office hours. It shows appreciation. It shows that we know who they are. It shows that we know that they made a pledge and there's some money left on that. And it gives them very non-confrontational, easy ways for them to fulfill that pledge. This is great for anybody that's been making payments or maybe is a little bit behind. And then Sarah, I know we always get that question of what about somebody that's way behind? What about people, let's say, I see some diocesan clients on here. Let's say they ran their big giant diocesan campaign. There's a whole bunch of people that made pledges and then never made any payments on them. This is what I would do for the language there. Similar, again, email to them. You could also make it a letter, but you want to thank them. You want to show that other people have done similar things and people like you make a gift here. And then I would do this. I would say the part in bold, something to the effect of, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I know that you've got a pledge out there and you haven't made payments on it. We just want you to know if something happened, that is perfectly fine. Like, let us cancel this pledge. Let's put it on the shelf. Like, your life is, like, whatever you've got going on is way more important. We see you, life happens. We totally get it. That is the single best strategy you can have to approach these long lapse donors. That will result in people actually making payments, or people that weren't going to make payments anyway, sending you a note of appreciation saying, hey, thank you for understanding. What we see from a lot of clients and from other nonprofits is this temptation to treat these donors as like deadbeats, right? Or like accounts receivable, like, oh my gosh, they made a pledge and then they never, made a payment on them. That will not achieve anything to treat them that way. Like, so you have to come at them with kindness, treat them like a real person. A lot of these donors may not even remember that they made a pledge, right? Which is nuts for any nonprofit. You think everybody, like, that's the most important thing in their life is the gift they're making to your organization, but they may have made the pledge and completely forgot whether they paid it. They thought that their spouse paid it. So come at them with kindness, treat them like a real person. Sarah, what are your thoughts on this?
Completely agree. And again, this goes back to building that relationship, right? These are the things that are a little bit out of your control, right? So if you come to them and say, we know things happen, it's the holiday season, we all have kids, whatever that may be, they're going to go, oh, they see me and they see me as a person. And that's going to get you so much further in building that relationship that next year, potentially, if they don't fulfill it this year, the likelihood of them giving to you again is much significantly higher. So
100%. And manage your expectations too, because if they're way behind on payments, instead of going in and say, I'm going to, browbeat and squeeze as much as I can out of this, just assume that they're all gone, right? If they haven't made any payments at all, start with zero and say, what is a message I could send this person that would build this relationship, right? That would make it more likely that they donate in the future. And the only answer to that is to treat them like a person, be real, offer them an out, say, we know things happen. It's A+ strategy. For the folks that are nodding their heads, and I know there's a lot on this, we'll send you the slides. You can copy it word for word, use it this December. It'll work for you.
Well, and I think just to piggyback on that too, one last thing is it also helps you, I think, internally with your staff to say, like your finance office that may be saying, we've got all these pledges that are not paid, right? This is another way to show them that you did all of the efforts you could, both for those who were close to paying and those who weren't. So that's also good notes for them to have as well. So.
Yep, 100%. Okay. Strategy 7. Black Friday social media blitz. We get asked this question a lot on the social media side. When should we post on social media? What should we do, around the holidays? Should we avoid holidays? Should we not? Ashley, why do we say Black Friday?
So Black Friday, they're sitting around on their phones, scrolling, doing all the things. So
everybody in this picture just got done with an exhausting meal with their family over Thanksgiving.
Right.
And
too much family time. They want alone time now. So they're scrolling away mindlessly.
The guy on the left cracks me up the most. That's the dad that's like, dude, I'm putting the headphones on. Like, this is, I'm going to go to my happy place for a minute here.
Yes, exactly. But just, social media, Giving Tuesday, set up a page, put up a few posts, send an email. You don't need to pour your heart and soul into it. The national advertising is out there enough. So, capitalize on that. And you're just not going to get a whole lot of bang for your buck if you pour loads and loads of time into it. I'd rather, see you call your top 10 to 20 donors instead. So. Yes.
So this is, this whole webinar cracks me up because I realize how often we're kind of like bursting, we're goring sacred cows out there. Like, Giving Tuesday is great. And we love Giving Tuesday. It gets people to be generous. What we bring to this though, is that knowledge of how many nonprofits are spending so much time and energy on a very low ROI thing, right? Giving Tuesday, the hundreds of hours that you're going to spend on Giving Tuesday, they're not going to pay for themselves, right? It is low ROI. You get a much better return just writing a heartfelt letter to folks and asking them to give. But as Ashley said, it's big enough now and it's ubiquitous that you should do something, right? So put up a landing page, put out your social media posts, aim them for Black Friday when people are, all full up on turkey and they're scrolling social media. Manage your expectations, but it's a good effort. It will raise you far less than any sort of letter that you're putting out there, any sort of other year-end activities that you're doing. Reminder, if you have questions, make sure to put those in the Q&A so we can get to them in about 90 seconds here, and we'll go through all the questions you have. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, last 2 strategies. 8, I love this one. Ringless voicemail, and we even say a good date for us, December 20th. Ashley, I'm going to ask you again, what are we talking about when we're saying, ringless voicemails here?
Yeah, so you can record a quick less than a minute message on your phone, and then you can send it to your donors. And there's a couple ways you can do it. if you are doing a live mailing at the end of the year, you can actually send this probably about a week ahead. And also kind of circling back to what we said before, the message can include, if you hit up hard times or finding challenging times right now, just ignore the letter I put in the mail and, know I'm thinking about you. So a little stewardship push there. And then we've also used it really successfully ahead of the holidays, just letting everyone know that you're grateful for them, that you're thinking about them during the holiday season, and how much they mean to your organization.
Yep. There's a ton of organizations out there that do this, a ton of tools you can use. We at PSG, we use live broadcasts. We get a lot of questions about how it works. Honestly, it's a pretty slick service. We can have a client record a quick voicemail. We coach them up because if you make it sound like a robotic spam auto mail, it'll be a disaster. If you make it sound like a nice real person talking on the phone, like you just missed them, it's going to go really well. And the way it works is you record that message, you upload phone numbers, and then it will send that out, and it will ping everybody's phone. It won't ring, ringless voicemail, not just a clever name. It will leave them a voicemail. So whenever you feel like you missed a call and you see a note there that Ashley called you, it's probably because she's using a service like this. So there's all sorts of considerations, state laws and FTC stuff. If you use it to delight donors and thank them and tell them how great they are, you'll be perfectly fine. If you try and make this a backbone of like a really hard press, like please donate, it's going to go horribly, right? So you can see the theme of all of our year-end giving stuff. We spend a lot of time and energy thinking about how to ask people for money, when in reality, a lot of the lift you're going to get is, how do we show appreciation? How do we show, that we see our donors as real people? That's what's going to end up lifting you and raising more money. So we use slide broadcast. If people have questions, I'm happy to tell them how it works. Just Googling, again, this week, preparing for this, there's ClickPoint, there's Cloud Talk. There's, I think, 20 other organizations out there now that do this ringless voicemail. So it's a fun strategy. Again, make it multi-channel, have it tied to a letter that you're sending out, or have it be just a stewardship piece around the holidays. Okay, last strategy is one that we're actually going to get into a lot more detail on. Launch a matching gift challenge on December 26th. We've had some really great success with this in the last 2 years. We've kind of polished up our approach and what we know works well, to the point that we're actually doing a whole webinar on it. So November 2nd, Ashley, Sarah, what do you think about the idea that November 2nd is just right around the corner here?
I'm not ready for that.
Nope. Nope.
We're going to make it through Halloween, which is on a Monday this year, which stinks. So this is our next big webinar, is all about how does PSG run successful year-end matching gift challenges. This is where you approach your donor and say, hey, we have a generous donor, and every dollar donated between now and the end of the year, they'll match dollar for dollar or whatever it might be. We're going to walk through, how do you find a donor for that? What's the messages you send? Is it letters? Is it emails? Is it both? When should you send them? What are some templates? That's everything we're covering on November 2nd. Okay, so with that, I would love to open it up to Q&A. I'll stop sharing my screen here. So if you have questions, hit that Q&A button and they'll show up on our screen and we can dive in. I'll start right now. There's a question, I think I saw it from Emily. It was about year-end letters and postcards. So this is a good question. We bag on postcards all the time, only because there's lots of nonprofits that are just throwing money away, saying, oh, instead of paying for a letter to a donor, I'm going to send them this little postcard, and it never works. You will never get the same return from a postcard as a letter. Letters work, and we're a digital first, consulting firm that wants to use every bell and whistle that's out there. Direct mail is still king when it comes to fundraising. So if you do one thing, write a heartfelt letter to your donors, focus on who your donors are, which are 68 and older, who have already given to you in the past, write them a meaningful letter, tell them they're awesome and great, and then invite them to give, before the end of the year. That's the best thing you could do. Do not confuse that with all of the cold water we poured on the strategy of just sending donors, powering out a postcard to everybody, because it just will not work in the same way. Ashley, Sarah, anything I missed on that?
Yeah, and I would just say, look at your timing for that as well. So if you are sending that end of the year, make sure it's arriving in homes prior to Thanksgiving. So it allows that to be in homes and all the other strategies we've talked about to, work together toward the end of the year.
Yep. Love it. Okay. Let's see here. A question from Kim. What if they received a benefit in return for their gift, like a donor plaque that you need to pay for? I'm not sure what this was in relation to. You guys have thoughts on this? So like the giving of gifts like recognition? You make a gift, you get a pen type thing.
I'm not quite sure how that the donor needs to pay for it. Is that the way you're reading it?
It possibly. Kim, if you don't mind, drop us a note, and I don't want to skip your question, but just give us more detail on what you're looking for, and we'll, believe me, I have an opinion on everything in the world. So give me a little more detail and I'll weigh in on it. I love this one from Emily. Is promoting donations versus Amazon wish list on Black Friday a better strategy for engagement? I haven't asked the experts here yet, but I love this idea. What do you guys think about Amazon wish list type strategy on Black Friday?
Yeah, I think if that fits, your organization and the needs that you have, then yes, that's great. You get Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all the things that fits right in.
You're a humane society, you load up on dog treats and I don't know anything about pets. I've got a bunny. All I know is anything related to a big fat, obese house bunny. Sarah, what do you think? Could this work?
Yeah, I think right now it's the thing, right? Every year there's always something that like this. So just make sure that when you're promoting it, that it's not getting lost in the shuffle of the teacher wish lists and all the other wish lists that are out there. So if there's a creative way that you can promote it, that would be my recommendation, because my hunch is a lot of people are going to be putting these wish lists out around Black Friday. Right. So you may consider doing it before Thanksgiving or even after Thanksgiving and Black Friday to stand out in the crowd a little bit.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Question from Alice here about AskGenius. Yes, hold on. I'll put up, she's asking again about AskGenius and how you can talk. So let me talk to somebody about that. Let me share my screen. Sorry, first time doing a webinar here. Okay, yeah, so if you want to talk about AskGenius, you can use that QR code, schedule a 15-minute chat. Her question was, we have a lot of duplicates in our system. Can we still use a tool like AskGenius to set ask amounts if there's duplicates in there? Yes, we have a little bit of a longer answer because we're going to give you some really good advice on how we can condense those down. But yes, it will absolutely work. And I guarantee you, Alice, you are not the only person on this call with a lot of dupes in your donor database, whether it's Salesforce or Bloomerang or Razor's Edge. We know more about this than maybe anyone in the country. So one, we could probably help give you some advice to clean it up. But yeah, don't let that stop you from asking people for the right amount, which in many cases is a little bit higher than what you're asking for right now. But in a lot of cases, it's also asking for less than what you would do if you just send out a one-size-fits-all, ask string. So would love to talk to you about it. For other folks that are interested, let us know. You can schedule a quick chat, or we're doing a live product demo next Wednesday. So if you don't want to schedule something one-on-one, but you want to know more about how this works and what it costs and everything, we're doing a demo next Wednesday at 11 o'clock. We'd love to have you there. We usually have 20 or 30 people on the line. It's great, very informal, lots of Q&A. So we will do that. Ashley, any other questions before we wrap up here that you saw that we want to tackle?
There's one question about the freestanding acquisition piece. Sarah, did you mean that was just one piece total or one series of pieces?
That's a great question. I honestly would do one piece total, but you could make it a segment of one of your existing mailings already. So you're not having to pay additional stock and data processing, all of that. Just add it as a segment one time a year. You don't need a series of multiple versions.
Yeah, agreed.
Love it. I saw a note here from Kim about the pledge card one. She said it was her favorite so far. For the folks on the line, that was by far the biggest hit we ever did. Was we spent 3 years trying to design like the world's greatest pledge card. Like, how do you, what do you ask for? What does it look like? What's the design look like? What are the ask strings? We did a whole webinar on it, and then we actually created a template in Word so that everybody can use it or hand it to their printer to design the most high-performing pledge card you can. We can share that link with you if you have any questions. Otherwise, feel free to reply to me when we send you out the notes from this, and we can get you that world's greatest pledge card. We get asked about that all the time. It turns out that everybody wanted to improve their pledge card. Nobody really knew how or why. So feel free to check that out. I see Mitch just dropped that in there. Thank you, Mitch. And I just saw something in the chat. It's about Giving Tuesday. Ashley, I'm going to go to you because you and I shared the mind on our thoughts on Giving Tuesday. This is from, looks like Kelly. They're Giving Tuesday. The United Way has a day-long event. Tons of nonprofits are involved in. They offer the opportunity to give directly or through the website, but the website's challenging. So what advice do we have for a nonprofit on Giving Tuesday? What should they do for donation pages? How much time and energy should they put into this?
I mean, I would create a simple donation page that's, directly, uniquely yours. but that's about it. I mean, you can send it an email, do a social media post. You can promote the event through a social media post, but beyond that, I wouldn't put your time and effort into it.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Okay, so that we're wrapping up here. Every time I say that, somebody's going to write another question here, and I'm going to feel guilty we're leaving them out. But we would love to see you on future webinars. Like I said, sign up for our newsletter. You'll get it maybe once a month whenever we have something fun and interesting, or some new webinars that are coming out, or new resources. If you want to learn more about AskGenius, and I encourage all of you to check it out. It's crazy effective. We're so dang proud of it. It's going to save you a ton of time, raise you more money. We think you're going to love it, so we'd love to talk to you about that. If you have recommendations for future webinars, if there's some area of fundraising that you really want to dig into, let us know. There are very few things that we haven't encountered and worked through as a consulting firm here. So we'd love to put together some answers if you have questions. So with that, Sarah, Ashley, as always, you're incredible. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And we'll see everybody on the next webinar.